Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins. Okay, guys, well, let's spare a thought for those living in Toronto. Actually, let's not. I was a former Torontonian. My family, we moved there in the 80s, and let me tell you, Toronto, I started seeing patterns when I was in my early teens. I started seeing the patterns, the changes. And Toronto went from a very happy metropolis, not metropolis, but a euphoric, happy, everybody on the same page, block parties. And I seen it transform into a very antisocial, I hate you type of city. And the glare. Okay? What am I talking about? The Vancouver glare. In Vancouver and Toronto, you get the same thing. You look over at a car to see somebody, they look at you like this. Like, holy crap. It's like, you have to apologize for being there. That's just my experience with living in Toronto. So, this is a recent story here from Toronto Stories, and it was dated October 8, 2019, so it's 2 weeks old. Sadly, Toronto is one of Canada's unhappiest cities. Inequity and harrowingly list of problems that have come with it in making Toronto an unhappy place for many to live. According to the Toronto Foundation's annual Toronto's Vital Signs reported released this week, our city, despite the strong physical health, is by several measures the least happy city in the country, with our young people the least happy of all. Well, because things have changed, right? The adults, I'm 41, so I lived in Toronto when I was I think I left when I was 19. I left Toronto, 20. I left when I was 20. And I realized I wasn't going to get ahead there I just knew everything was just so overpriced. And I was researching other places to live and stuff. And I moved to Mexico for 2 years. I lived in Mexico for 2 years. Yes, I did. I chased after a Mexican woman to marry, but she found somebody better, so good for her. The 144-page report pulls no punches, declaring that as the gap between the affluent and the poor widens, the problems will only intensify. Now, this is what the problem is in Toronto, and I've noticed after living in Mexico for 2 years, I went back to Toronto for 3 months, worked, and I'm like, okay, I got to get the hell out of here again. So I went to Miami for 5 years. I never looked back at Toronto again. But then when I went back to visit and stuff, I noticed one thing. Nobody had money. Everybody was broke. Everybody was heavily indebted. Everybody had some sort of financial problem. You could tell, you could look in their eyes, you could feel it in the air. The nightclubs were emptying. It wasn't so busy. Yeah. And then, take a step back, I went there a few months ago to bury my father. And, because he died in the summer of 2019. And the overbuilding, the unhappiness in people, like it's just... It's intense. You could you know how when you could feel people's vibes? Well, you could feel it there. It's strong, right? And the same thing in Vancouver. I'm not gonna lie. Vancouver's the same. That's why I moved to a town with 7,000 people. Just too many people. It's just too many unhappy people. So the 144-page report pulls no punches, declaring that the gap between affluent and the poor widens, the problems will intensify. Well, Toronto was decent until 2017 when Vancouver put the foreign buyers tax on. The foreign buyers went over to Toronto and screwed everybody over, and then now everybody went to secondary cities, tri-cities. They just moved out as far as possible from Toronto. And now, not only that, what's also intensifying the hate is the commute to work. Woo! The commute to work. All these major streets. People in Vancouver will baffle if they see the streets in Toronto. how wide they are. 3 lanes, like major streets going everywhere, highways going everywhere. Vancouver has nothing like that. You want to go to the airport in Vancouver, you take a side street. But let's focus on Toronto here. The report claims emergency room visits for mental health are increasing extremely rapidly among young adults, as are hospitalizations for eating disorders. It also points out deaths from opioids, alcohol poisoning, and increasingly rapidly, often affecting low-income groups the hardest. Go back to the election discussion, the election debates. We were live on the channel when they were debating. I kept saying, why aren't they debating opioid crisis, fentanyl crisis, housing affordability issues? Why aren't they debating any of this stuff? But they're not. The report also categorizes such as safety, culture, education, and housing. Citing a recent Toronto Public Health report, the 17th annual Vital Signs study shows that the Transantonians with lower incomes had worse outcomes in 20 out of 34 indicators they studied. The report cited that men are the lowest income group, were 50% more likely to die before the age of 75 than men, the highest income group. So basically, if you make more money, you're not going to die. You will live a bit longer. Yes. Rates of unhappiness were much lower among the low-income residents between the ages of 18 to 29. People who don't own their own homes were also found to have a low life satisfaction. Why do you think I've been fighting for the middle class and the working poor? How there is no middle class anymore. The middle class eroded into working poor and just hand in hand with severely low income and poverty levels. I've been talking about this for years. Go back on my channel and check it out. Satisfaction and much lower rates of happiness than the rest of the GTA. So despite being in a city with so many positive, booming economy, low unemployment, the low unemployment's fun. There's like 9 people living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Woo! Higher life expectancies, lower death rates. Toronto is firmly in the grips of growing inequity problem. Let's touch on lower death rates. Once they got sewers basically, or the sewer system got created, life expectancy extended longer. Okay, and it wasn't vaccines. It was sewer, the common toilet in the house that flushes and gets rid of your excrements, right? Toronto does not work for all, said Toronto Foundation CEO Sharon Avery. In fact, for a growing majority, life in the city poses a serious struggle. And the trend line suggests things will get worse before they get better. For those who think that things are no tougher today, Toronto's Vital Signs is a wake-up call. We've compiled more data than ever before, and the evidence is clear. Inequality is the new normal. Yeah, that's what they're massaging into people. Oh, I don't think I could afford to buy a house. And then now they're teaching in schools, oh yeah, housing, we should be a nation of renters, folks. Back in the day, the boomers bought at the right time. No, back in the day when the boomers bought, they were pegged on the gold standard. Money had value. People had intrinsic value in their money, and they used to buy up. Interest rates were paying you out on your bank accounts. It was a heyday for Torontonians, or people living across the fine country of Canada. Anywhere you were, all you needed is a job, and you made it. You could live on your own and pay your own rent and make ends meet. A letter from grassroots leaders to support the Vital Signs posted in the opinion section of the Toronto Star points out, so what is the reality of living in low-income neighborhood? Physical, mental health outcomes are significantly lower and social isolation is higher. Many low-income neighborhoods have among the lowest public transit access in the city, and many are not set up for walking or biking to work. Many live in towers, and yet is less access to public green space here than in neighborhoods with mostly single-family homes and backyards. Feelings of safety are the lowest, but there is a shortage of safe places for children to play. In Canada, you never had a shortage for safe places for kids to play, ever. Now it's happened, and you know why? Because low-income housing. We don't need low-income housing. We need more better paying average jobs. A lot of people out there want to be more productive in life. A lot of people want to contribute more and actually have something to say for their lives. And the sad part, look into my eyes, folks, they've reversed it. They've reversed it. They sold our jobs out to China. Now China's coming to buy us out. Now that they've bought us out, we've lost on a double whammy. We've lost on the fact that we could no longer could buy the average home, because the average home for average income should be what it is. The average 3-bedroom, 2-bath should be for the average family to choose with the backyard, not low income and low income housing, because we don't make nearly enough because of the bad political decisions made in this country, bad policymakers, the secret groups that are passing laws or passing secret groups that are making decisions on our behalf that we have basically no say over. The best thing to do is, guys, stay strong, eye on the prize, and stay positive. You know, get out and about and try hard to be a part of society. The hatred there in Toronto is huge, and I believe it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I've never seen so much. You can see it in people's eyes. They blame their debtness and their struggle to even get ahead in life on others instead of focusing on not themselves, but mainly the governments that they elect into power. Guys, this is Mike Martin's channel. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for just stuff happening in my life, weird stuff going on, talking about what is happening in the housing market, talking about what is happening here. I'm going to plug myself here a little bit for you guys. Guys, if you're still watching, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Here it is. It's a really nice, well-built channel. We got Mike in the Night every Saturday night. We talk live from 9, usually till midnight. We have a 3-hour show where we just talk about what is happening. And we got Trends in the Housing Market every Wednesday night where we discuss what is happening in the housing market, and Can't Read Market Talk from time to time. Morning Coffee with Mike, usually 3 times a week when I got a hot topic to talk about. Canadian housing crisis ripoff. Look at this, a driveway for sale. Oh no, those are houses. These are $60,000, $70,000 detached homes, $30,000 detached homes across America. Hundreds of them. We look at about 50 different units here for sale, and we're comparing this to a driveway in Vancouver that's for sale right here. $108,000 for a driveway, and you cannot build on it. And then here we look at different properties in Atlanta for under $100,000, $80,000 US, so it could match up to $85,000 US, so it could balance the $108,000 for the driveway here. I do all kinds of cool videos, guys. Check it out. Subscribe. Just be part of the show. Come on Mike in the Night and we chat live. Be part of the discussion. Thanks for watching, and God bless.